Been here for a while, so I'm a little rusty. Next on the agenda is public comment. Public participation is encouraged in the Laurel School District. All meetings of the board will be open to the public except provided by law. Scheduled meetings of the board may be recorded. Audience members may address the board during public comment for non-agenda interests or during the discussion of the relevant printed agenda item. Your attendance is welcome. If you plan to speak to the board, please look over the information on the agenda, then complete the public comment section on the comment section card located in the back of the room. To address the board members, please stand to be recognized at the podium, identify yourself, and briefly state your concern. Public participation is a right that carries certain responsibilities, such as informing oneself in advance of the issues being discussed, voluntarily being as brief and germane as possible, not unduly repeating marks others or you have already made, and showing respect at all times for the rights and opinions of others, whether citizens, board members, school district employees, or students. Thank you for your involvement in the Laurel Public Schools. Is there any comment on non-agenda interest items? Okay, and then I know that Julie keeps telling me I need to remind everybody, did we all sign in? Shaking our head, we've done our job. Thank you, Julie. Okay, moving through our agenda, on to correspondence. Again, a huge blessing of our community with their donations to several items and several entities within our district. We have SEG Federal Credit Union, who gave to the annual Classroom Connections for supplies. The American Ceramic Society for the Scientific Inquiry, so thank you for their donation. American Pizza Partners provided, looks like, pizzas to our student council. Northwestern Energy gave to our restaurant wrestling program. The Play In provided for cheer program, and Western Security gave to the speech, drama, and debate team. So thank you again for our partners in our community. We do appreciate everything that you do for Laurel Public Schools. On to presentation. I'm not seeing our gentleman from, Andy is supposed to
Don't
be,
see Andy.
but I do see Nathan Matlich from Coldwell Bankers. So maybe we could just switch you, Nate. You okay with that? Okay, come on up, give us an update on this lovely building that we're sitting in that's under contract.
So good evening, everyone. Nathan Matlich with Coldwell Banker Commercial Real Estate. I just wanted to give you an update. Paul Nelson is currently going through a zone change process to basically get the zoning to a residential multifamily zoning so that he can redevelop the school building into condos that he'll ultimately have for sale. There was a preliminary zoning meeting in which they recommended that they go ahead and move forward with the zone change. I know that a couple of us were there to support. I know that ultimately the final decision will be going in front of City Council. This will go in front of City Council on February 11th. I believe for a final vote as far as that goes. So he's been working very closely with his architects, engineers. He's gone through the building. He's basically tested it for asbestos along with many other things and gotten a lot of that due diligence all taken care of. So at this time, he's going through the process, and I only have good things to report. So knock on wood, February 11th, he will receive that zone change so that he'd be able to redevelop this property into condominiums.
Any questions from?
We had board, but we had talked a little bit about seeing if we could get any type of extension on our lease from March to June, even if it was a month or something, just to give us a little more time to get out of here. Has that been talked about at all?
Yes. So we definitely talked about it. I haven't received an official proposal from Paul. Obviously he's done work with you guys in the past, and he said, yes, Nathan, of course, I'm going to work with the school to come come up with some sort of a lease extension that makes sense. Um,
Would it be appropriate, as the board chair and Nathan, is it appropriate? I've worked with them on a number of projects over my career, so is it inappropriate for me to call them and kind of tell them what we would like to see? Is that, rather than working through a third party, is that appropriate?
It's totally up to you. You're more than welcome to talk to them. We would just want to memorialize it in writing, and I can certainly help do that along with George Warmer. So if you want to approach him, that's totally fine. If you want me to approach him, I'm happy to do that also.
Okay. The board doesn't have a problem. I would certainly call them and
We have a problem with that?
talk to them briefly and just see what we can get.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Any comments from public audience? Questions? All righty, short and sweet and to the point.
All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your
Have a
time.
good night.
Thank you. Well, I do hope that Andy is okay. That's very unusual for him to be late. So we will keep moving on because I know Dr. Bylington is going to be talking about the high school cell phone update policy, and then she also has to go on to her next adventure. So
We have some makeup basketball games at the high school this afternoon, and Mr. Stilson had the opportunity to attend the state principal conference in Helena. So I'm a little bit in two places. Mr. Torgerson is also at the high school running our events there because we were at two buildings a little bit ago. So the board had asked for an update on the electronic device policy and how that was going at the high school. So we looked at our semester 1 data, and the way it's classified in Infinite Campus is under electronic device violation, and that lumps together cell phone violations and headphone violations. We do tend to have more cell phone violations than headphone violations, but I just wanted you to know that that's kind of mixed. There's some of both in there. So they're not supposed to have their phone out during class time unless they have specific permission from a teacher to listen to music or to look something up, or sometimes they'll use it for a game like called Kahoot or various things like that. And they're not supposed to have two headphones in at once. If they're allowed to listen to music during class while they're working or something, they're only allowed to have one earbud in or headphone on. Most of the violations were for phone use or an electronic device disrupting the learning environment, which would probably be someone's phone going off unexpectedly. We don't have very many of those. So of our 40 staff members, roughly, we have about 15 of them who have submitted electronic device violations of some type or another. Number of students, we have about 63 out of our 550 or so students who have had a phone violation or two. I'm not aware of any student who's had more than two. Total number of electronic device violations would be 80 for the semester, which really isn't all that high. I know that a lot of teachers, having been in and out of classrooms, a lot of teachers have really developed kind of relationship with students about, when it's time to, when the bell rings and it's time to put the phones away, and how they manage them in their classrooms so that they're not a disruption or a distraction. Most staff members are really pretty good about working with students and having the phones put away during class. So it's not been a significant disruption this fall or a significant problem as far as we see it. And we would like to continue using the policy as it stands through the rest of the school year.
Could you tell if it was more of a problem at the beginning of the semester, but then as students got used to it and got in the groove, it seemed to be better off?
That's what we noticed. We did. Mr. Stilson has a nice pocket wall pocket folder in his office. It's meant to hold calculators. In his office, it tends to hold cell phones. So we would see more of those in the first few weeks of school, and then after that, it would be it was much more random. One or two on a given day, some days none, and the students are really pretty respectful about it. And I know that a lot of teachers, at least several that I heard today were reviewing and revisiting student expectations today as some of the classes changed and were first day of second semester today. So they went over those things in some of their classes.
Your comments, Chris?
How do you guys think it's going?
We love our phones. But I mean, it does help at the school. It keeps us on task. Every once in a while, you just use your phone really quick, and I don't think that's a big thing, but it's not going too bad.
I think with the new policy that students are listening to their teachers more about the cell phones. Like if they see a student with the cell phone, they tell them put it away, and it goes away for the rest of the period, rest of the week, and like students are listening more to like when a teacher says to put it away. That's just something that I've noticed with a few of my classes.
I do realize like at the beginning of the school year, kids were always like, "Oh, this sucks," and they'd purposefully use their phone just kind of to go against the policy. It's just what we like to do, I guess. But as we've gotten used to it, that's definitely stopped. I think more and more people realize like it's really not needed. Like I keep mine in my pocket all times throughout the day. It's always there. But I barely ever look at it unless I've got nothing to do. So
Chris, did you have a follow-up comment?
Yeah, so do you guys think that like monitoring of it's going well as far as like you're not in class and I don't want you to call out any teachers, but like do you have teachers who are still like, this is okay? Or is it pretty universally enforced, do you feel?
I think that there's some teachers that haven't really like followed the policy to a T. They're still laid back about it. But because other teachers are following the policy, I see that in those classes that tend to have more phone usage, that it has decreased because it's just now kind of expected in the school. But there still are a few teachers that are laid back about it.
I think it's important to realize the difference in some of the classes though. So I have a specific class where, we're working on projects 99% of the time. Sometimes there's not much to do. And so that class is definitely more laid back. But then other classes, it's a lot more strict. There's a lot more direct instructional time. And I mean, it really depends on the teacher. We've seen a lot more of the implementation, I would say, this year than last year. But there are definitely still a couple teachers that are not as, I don't know, like not doing it as much as others.
Renee?
Did we have any parent pushback?
Few discussions early on with parents who were not happy about the student having to come in and pick up their student's phone, and them wanting their student to have it. And after we talked through they can have it, they have to keep it put away. Like if they want the opportunity to keep it with them during the school day, they have to have the responsibility to keep it put away so they keep that opportunity kind of thing. And it really wasn't that much after we had those conversations. I think it was more, and intentionally so, it was probably more of an irritation that they had to come to the school to pick up their child's phone. That's part of that consequence, is we want the parents to understand. They were almost, they were just as frustrated with their child as they were with the situation.
Well, my question is that, I mean, and this goes for the both of you, do we feel like we are having our students respond more in class? They're collaborating more, they're paying attention, learning's heightened, maybe the drama's calmed down a little bit. I mean, go ahead.
I think so. I mean, there were some kids, not great, honestly.
Names, but there were some kids that would just sit on their phones all day, and I mean, we all knew that their grades were bad. They had talked about it before, how bad it was, and now I don't see near as much of that anymore. And it seems there's a lot less drama, I guess, like socially online. There's people posting during class, and then that causes some kind of drama, and then it's all calmed down pretty much.
kind of feeling and seeing the same thing.
Yeah, especially there's one class in particular where a couple kids they're on their phones, but then they get taken away, and then they're on task the rest of the period, or they tell the teacher tells them to put it away, and then they're focused.
Redirection. How do you feel?
I think part of the goal with our policy is responsible use. As much as anything, being in high school, significant temptation of the phones, even for us as adults. It's our job to help students learn how to responsibly use these devices. Even if we want to have it out and be on it, we need to know when it's time to keep it put away. And high school is a safe place for them to practice getting better at that. So they're not getting in trouble at their job or getting kicked out of college classes or getting fired from someplace later on down the road because they can't leave their phone alone. We want them to develop that responsibility to it. I don't think in the building we felt as much drama. To be sure, there's always a little bit of drama to be had because some of it comes up outside of school. And then the kiddos read it and they talk to somebody else during the day. And so there's a little bit of bubbling up of drama sometimes. And I wasn't here last year, so I don't have a comparison to last year, but I can say that it feels like less drama than it sounded like last year and less drama than what I experienced in my past position with phone issues. So I think our kids are doing a nice job of managing it. And I respect that the teachers have developed their management protocols within class. And for the most part, we really manage that phone usage. We've done a nice job of it, or they've done a nice job of it. I'm just kind of the supervision on it. And I've had lots of opportunities to have conversations with kids about when we use our phone and when we don't use our phone. And they've always been really respectful. The students that I have had come in and get a phone back from me, usually it's Mr. Stilson, they've been very respectful and open to the feedback on how to not repeat that experience.
Audience? All righty, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. Well, I am deeply concerned of Andy, so hopefully we can check in on him. Okay. So with that, I'll just keep moving through since he is not here, and we definitely have given some time for any tardiness. So moving through our agenda onto the consent agenda, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve by Renee,
Second.
seconded by Chris. Any comments, questions from the board? Not hearing or seeing any. Any comments, questions from public audience? Also not hearing or seeing any. So I have a motion to approve by Renee, seconded by Chris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Moving down to our action items. Action item for the policy updates on the second reading. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve all the second reading policies listed on the agenda.
Motion to approve by Jenny. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Renee. Comments, questions from the board? Not seeing or hearing any. Comments, questions from public audience? Not seeing any. Thank you for working on all of that. I know it's a lot of work, and even though they're just small, minor details, I know it's a lot of work. So thank you very much. So with that, motion to approve policy update second reading from 1 to 6 by Jenny, seconded by Renee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Action item B for the policy updates on first reading. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the policy updates 1 and 2 for their first reading.
Motion to approve by Renee. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Kayla. Comments, questions from the board? Chris?
Have some on that. Independent school participants.
Okay.
It it looks like Matt had some notes on that are are you proposing then that, like, say under number 2, that second sentence be deleted? I mean, that looks like your recommendation in there, but it's not like strict, it's not stricken.
For our discussions, we leave those
Okay.
discussions. Under activity or scholastic program at the Laurel Middle School except as provided by the state or federal law. So we decided that was worth leaving in there.
Oh, okay.
Middle school, and it didn't say, felt like, well, if a student is in community, they can participate in a fall sport or winter sport, or spring sport. So we just said one sport at a time. No one could quite understand what the logic was behind that wording. Why it was worded like that.
Right.
History of it.
Yeah. All right, those make sense. I just wanted to make sure I understood those, and especially that last one, because I was wondering why we would delete, like you said, why would we?
I'll leave the notes in there just so I remember what we talked about.
Perfect. No, that was it.
Thanks, Chris. Any other comments, questions from the board? Comments, questions from public audience? Okay, not seeing any from both sides. Action item B for the policy updates, first reading of 1 and 2. Motion to approve by Renee, seconded by Kayla. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Action item C, the updated job descriptions. Do I have a motion?
I'd motion to approve the updated job descriptions under number 1 and number 2 of the agenda.
I will just give a quick, I sat in on the district committee just to kind of go over this. As you can see, there was not a lot of changes. One of the lines that was just added was due to, an incident at one of our schools. So we just wanted to clarify that a little bit more. And then talking about how each one of our aides either needs and is required first aid, CPR, and additional, or we highly recommend it just because of if they are party to any maybe traveling because they're out of school and they're at a function. Really, the only person that has it and is required is the bus driver, but we can't always say the bus driver is in proximity of where maybe that class and that student is at. So those were the discussion items during that committee, and we felt that those were minor details that we could just bring directly to the board. Any questions on that? Okay. Any questions from public audience? Did I handle it, ladies? We're good? Okay. Okay, so I'm not hearing or seeing any. So action item C for the updated job descriptions on 1 and 2, approved by Chris, seconded by myself. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Action item D, the recommendation to open and reopen an elementary school. Matt's going to tell you a little bit about this because he's very intrigued of this process.
So just let this sink in for a little bit. So that there's not a form at the state level of OPI for us to kind of rename schools. The only form they have is for opening or reopening an elementary school. So maybe there's a school like Molt, say, that before it's 2 years, once school's gone 2 years, it can't reopen. So at the end of 2 years, so at the end of 2 years, a school may want to reopen. And if that's the case, then this is a forum they would have to reopen. So they're telling the state, hey, we're going to be having a school again. So we pretty much have to fill out all this paperwork because this is all they have. So it also involves like petitions and things that really revolve around opening a new school, not just moving some kids and renaming your schools. So Julie had to go through and do a little bureaucratic processes and procedures to make sure it meets the needs of what they ask. She sends it in. They're well aware of our situation and what's going on, that we're not opening a new school per se. We're just moving kids and renaming schools. Though technically it is a new school, but it's not what they look at as opening a new school. So that's why there's a lot of documents there, and it seems like a lot of stuff. The petitions are real simple. We didn't have to go out and get a whole bunch of signatures. We just needed a few. So we're just following what they asked us to do. They're well aware of the situation and what we did, and so that's why there's 7 documents attached to this renaming of our schools.
We're either leading the way or we're causing problems. Either way.
But one or the other, one or the other.
I just wanted to give you a quick why we have so many, just so you understood, before I make a call for a motion, just so if there's any questions, anybody wants to know what's going on through the documents.
Question I had is, it says request to open, I thought we were calling it Laurel Primary.
Can't call Laurel Primary or
Oh, because
Devon.
it was the LPS thing. Okay.
Yeah.
You just made Devin like tilt again when we were.
Sorry.
It was Laurel Elementary and Lowell Intermediate. And again, we can't just apply just for a name change. We're closing south, we're reopening Laurel Elementary.
Whole thing.
Yeah, so we'll follow all the rules. They said don't sweat. We just had to put together a petition. Julie did all that, real simple stuff, have a few people sign. It's not like they're opening a school that's been closed for a couple of years. And that is where, hey, the community wants it reopened, and it's kind of a process. This is the same process. We just did the simple version of it. And again, a few bureaucratic hoops to jump through. That's fine. We'll do it.
No questions I'm not seeing, then do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve the opening of Laurel Intermediate School and to rename the existing West School to Laurel Elementary School and accept the petitions for both schools.
Jenny, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Chris. Okay, I will ask again to the board. Do we have any comments, questions? To the public, comments, questions on this? Not hearing or seeing any? Alrighty. Action item D for the recommendation to open and reopen an elementary school by Jenny. Did you get all that motion, Miss Julie? Okay, and seconded by Chris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Moving down our action items to E for the co-curricular stipend for an additional mentor. Do I have a motion?
I would motion to approve the co-curricular stipend for additional mentor.
Motion to approve by Chris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kayla. Comments, questions from the board?
For a mid-year hire, if anyone's wondering, we had a mid-year hire, so we signed them a mentor.
Comments, questions from the public audience? Okay, not hearing or seeing from either side. Action item E for the co-curricular stipend for an additional mentor approved. Motion to approve by Chris, seconded by Kayla. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Action item F for the approval of the out-of-district students for 2024-2025. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the out-of-district students listed.
Approved by Renee. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Jenny. Comments, questions from the board? Not seeing or hearing. Comments, questions from public audience? Alrighty, not hearing or seeing any of that. Action item F for the approval of the out-of-district students for 2020. No, that's what I'm doing.
Oh.
That's okay. I feel like the room's dead, so we needed some excitement. So, okay. Action item of F for the approval of out-of-district students for 2024-2025. Motion to be approved by Renee, seconded by Jenny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you for keeping me on track, though. No, that's okay. I've done that before, though, so I get it. I get it. Action item G for book donation for the high school. Do I have a motion?
I'd motion to approve the book donation for the high school.
Motion to approve by Chris. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Renee. Comments, questions from the board? So this was reviewed, I think, prior to Christmas break, and then it was accidentally slipped through the cracks on bringing it back for an action item, so, which is why it was a little behind, so we do apologize about that. So any questions, comments? Any questions, comments from public audience? Okay, not hearing or seeing from anybody. Action item G for the book donation for the high school. Motion to approve by Chris, seconded by Renee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Going to go through our informational items. We're going to kick it off with our student board representatives report. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Uh,
On the phone. 6.5% said no. But the open-ended section that addressed this comment said that it wasn't safe for the drivers. It was just the reckless driving. It was the driving itself that caused the issue. It wasn't the design of the parking lot. But people had ideas to try to resolve this, which included implementing speed limits like signs, because at the high school parking lot, there isn't really any there. It's supposed to be 15. I see people going 35 through it all the time. And then also they suggested adding speed bumps as well as installing security cameras, which we do already have security cameras there that work very well. People just don't know that. So Chase, do you want to move on to the next one?
So the next question we asked is if students in our school thought it was safe for pedestrians. And that seems to be our biggest issue, especially with kids walking across the parking lot every period for the agricultural classes. 56.5% of students that responded that they don't believe it is safe for pedestrians, with 43.5% saying that they do believe it's safe. A lot of the comments on the open-ended section talked about the blind spots, especially when you're going through. We have 3 exits on the eastern side, and we have 1 on the west. Especially on that eastern side where it's more busy, there's quite a couple blind spots. So they had recommended stop signs at key intersections. For example, we have the one that goes north-south, and then it intersects with east-west. And we had thought about putting stop signs at the east and west so that the north-south just goes straight through. That seemed kind of simple because the east-west is the one that goes through the actual parking lot. And then just some stop signs between the ag building and the main building. And that would just kind of support pedestrian safety, I suppose, especially with those students going across every hour or so. So
You guys talked to the high school principals or the SRO and kind of presented this because they're not here tonight. So
yes, we did speak with Dr. Byington. Mr. Stilson and Dr. Byington have both been a big part of this throughout the whole process. They went over the form originally before we sent it out. They went over the responses with us after we had finished accepting responses. And so they understand what the students feel. The only issue where we would have is with kind of implementation on like I guess the punishments, I guess, especially because we can't have somebody watching the parking lot the entire day. But Michael will move on to the next.
Yeah, so adding on to that, it's also a budgeting kind of issue because we would have to fund the stop signs and then fund the speed bumps if we were to do that. But the next item that we asked was, would you support implementing diagonal parking? So on this one, we got a 54% saying yes and a 46% saying no. The reason why people didn't really support this one is because they think that it would decrease the spots available, where it would probably increase the spots. But another reason was that there was a concern for bigger vehicles not having enough space in the new parking spaces. So maybe having the front row being diagonal and then keeping those back rows wider for those bigger vehicles was another option.
Just one more thing to add about those signs is student council has brought up that they would be willing to fund those signs. So the board or the district wouldn't necessarily have to fund those. It's more of a, does the board approve of making these changes? But student council has brought up that they are willing to purchase signs, stop signs, speed limit signs, even signs like informational. So we know that that front one is staff parking. The eastern side one out front is only senior parking. So they would be open to funding that, as Ms. Hodges told me this morning. And so the next topic was directional arrows, because it seems a lot of people like to go the wrong direction in the parking lot. A lot of driving in the left for some reason. Don't know why. Why not? So 42% stated that they wouldn't, and 57% stated that they would support arrows. I don't know why people wouldn't support them, but they would just allow the. People, they just supported it because a lot of the students doubt their effectiveness, considering a lot of people probably wouldn't follow them. 57% of the responses said that we should. 13% believed that the arrows would be completely ignored by drivers, which makes sense for some of our students, I guess. But so, yeah, I mean, it's something that we've spoken about a couple of times, just improving the effectiveness, I suppose, of our parking lot, especially because even I've had some close calls in the parking lot. You'll notice at lunch and after school, as students are coming out of the building, cars will weave in between people. Maybe some crosswalks, just make it safer for drivers and pedestrians.
And then another thing that was addressed in the open-ended section that the students brought up was that maybe having one of the SRO officers be like in the parking lot during like lunch and after school to try to like deter people from speeding and recklessly driving.
And then that's all for that. We were going to bring up our next one for the February meeting, the second
Does
meeting.
anybody have any questions on the park? Comments to the parking lot, Chris?
We'll meet with the SRO then, talk to them about that.
Yep, we do plan on having a meeting with principals and SRO just to kind of get some implementation going on just the simply watching the parking lot during lunch. And then if we can decide on the actual physical implementations afterwards.
Chris, hold on real quick. Chris?
I do like some of these ideas, and I think we probably need to add them to maybe the capital planning part. As part of the, if we talk about the maintenance levy, these could be funds that could be potentially utilized if that passes. I do like the idea of angled parking, because you could create more of a one-way situation through the parking lot where you kind of have to sneak through it like this to get part. It would just naturally push people into going one direction. And I like the speed bump idea too, actually, just to slow. So that's
It's gonna be a snow removal issue at times too. So Wayne and I would, before the capital planning, Wayne and I could walk the parking lot with the principals and just see some of the ideas about stop signs, what exactly would that look like, where would we put them? Can we put them somewhere, or is it odd angle parking versus I think we can go and just do a walk through and kind of consider some of those ideas.
Yeah, it's almost, I mean, really, it's just painting. We paint the lines periodically anyway, so it'd be just changing the way the lines are painted in the parking lot. So it's actually probably not that much extra cost. I mean, there's gonna be some, because I imagine that like Henderson Stewart or somebody would have to help us lay it right back out correctly again, but so you'd have a little bit of upfront cost, but then the regular cost would be the same. Those are simple solutions, I think. So I'll tell you, I inadvertently drove through the high school parking lot the other day, but after I picked up the girls, and like it was really long out the one side, so I was like, oh, I'll just cut through the high school parking lot. Bad idea. Like I almost got hit twice.
Yep.
What's going on here? It's a war zone. So I agree. This was very timely for this company. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just sailing out. Yeah.
Any other comment, Renee?
Was there any question or the open-ended about assigned parking spots?
I believe that there was, let me see if I can find it, but there was a small percentage that did support the idea of having assigned parking in the open ending, because we didn't directly ask that in the survey. But if that's something that the board would like us to look into, we could interview students or send out another survey seeing if assigned parking is something that we're interested in.
No, I think they brought that up in the safety presentation last meeting, that was one of, like, because you have a better idea of what kid's car is in what spot.
Whether it's a sign, get a tag or something you hang or a sticker, whatever it happened to be.
I mean, it's easier to figure out when your car gets hit, who probably hit you, if the two kids beside, and I guess it maybe would make you a little more responsible because you're the one parking there every day. So if you hit the car next to you, it's obviously going to be you that did, I mean, I think that in that way it'd be good. I mean, it's still a process to assign every spot.
Halfway through the year. And like they're not driving until they get their license in February.
So I just, quick idea, and I know we've and I appreciate this, because I mean, you wouldn't think that a parking lot would bring up this much discussion, but here we are. In my high school, we actually had to pay to sit in the park. Like if we wanted our car to be in the parking lot, we had to pay, and it was an annual, and it would go towards the budget of student council or whatever. But if you were caught speeding or not stopping or almost hitting somebody, it was revoked, and then you had to go park on the street. And let me just tell you, you had to park on the street down the way. So, I mean, that could be an option. That could be an idea.
So I was going to bring up a discussion we had at last year's district student council conference. It was last March, and we talked with some Lockwood students. They currently implement a that kind of parking situation where each student has their own parking, and it seems to work relatively well for them. The only issue I have, which I'm guessing Devin is going to bring up, is how to make sure people are actually parking, because again, you can't have somebody watching all the time. And I know there are like automation processes where the cameras can, I guess, automatically scan the parking lot. And if those tags, somebody can go out and look if you're in the right spot. But then we'd also have to look at numbering every single spot. Again, I don't know how that would work. And there's more students that park on the other side of the school as well, which I don't think is that school property over by the Dodgers fields, that parking lot. So we couldn't number those, and a lot of students park there as well. So those are some that we can't necessarily work on either. So.
I actually just wanted to add when I was a student, we also didn't get there was a certain number of slots.
Mm-hmm.
Like slot number per spot.
Yeah.
We didn't always get parking. Only 1 year. These.
And I mean, that's true. You'd have to monitor, and that would be
Yeah.
time and everything.
'Cause-
But with the discussion.
I mean, we do have cameras in the parking lot. I guess if you could set up some sort of way to watch that, but it's
Well, it could
relatively
be a
hard.
self-monitoring parking lot as well.
Yeah. But
Yeah, someone parks in your spot.
yeah,
I mean, really, especially.
I mean, your spot, you're gonna go tell on them.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they're gonna tell on them unless they're not there that day and their friend parks in their spot. You know, they know they're not coming. But it's like in general, they're not just gonna be like, oh, I guess I'll go park on the street.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like,
I know.
decide to tell on somebody.
Seniors,
Yeah.
Juniors.
Go.
sophomores,
Yeah.
freshmen. I'm sorry. Or it's just a random number. Just a randomized number.
Their parking spot at the beginning of the year instead of the end of the year.
There you go. That'd be kind of cool. That's
Makes more sense.
Yeah.
So I do have a little bit of experience in this. And one of the things as a high school principal I do worry about is the monitoring of the parking spots. Meaning it can burn up. I do not want our principals burning up. You know, if they have 5 kids that parked in the wrong spot, it can burn up, you know, a half hour, 45 minutes finding out who it is and going, walking around, checking those things. So we want to make sure that we're not committing administrative time to worrying about parking. I think at some point, there has to be some personal responsibility when it comes to safety. I know that law enforcement can issue careless driving tickets on private property. Can't administer reckless driving, I believe, but they can administer careless driving, or it's vice versa. Maybe it's reckless or not careless. I can't remember. It's one or the other. So I would really push towards monitoring and teaching the right practices. To me, this is just like going into a first grade classroom. The first day of school, we need to teach them how to walk up and down the hallways properly. We need to teach them how to wash their hands properly, do all those things. I think the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks of school, we need to make sure that we're teaching this proper conduct. And then if Chase decides to speed out of the parking lot, weave in between people, and he's caught, then he should be off campus, because that's a danger and that's a personal responsibility thing. So I don't want to commit too much to say, okay, we'll just have the principals will be in charge of making sure. I don't want them to be traffic cops out there. I think we need to do a better job at the beginning of the year, teaching students our expectations, and then following through, and then having monitoring out there, like SROs, like you said, or whoever it happens to be. Thank you, guys. Thank you for putting in the time on this, because it is important, and I don't want someone to get hurt.
yeah.
Next topic.
So at the next meeting in February, the second meeting, we wanted to bring up the school's climate and culture for students. So the student representatives are planning to do interviews with students at each grade level. So 4 students from each grade, 2 male, 2 female. And we will be going through just kind of asking questions like, what do they enjoy about school? What makes them want to come back? Things they don't enjoy, just to kind of grasp what makes them want to come back and learn more. And I think that's important because a lot of students, they just hate school. They don't like coming back. So if we could maybe alter in some way to the point where they want to come and learn every day, that way we can get some more educated citizens in society, I suppose. And that it makes it more enjoyable for them. If they're in better moods, the teachers are in better moods. And just some think about how they view school. It's really important to know how all of the students feel. So that's why we're going to go each grade, kindergarten through 12th grade. Obviously, the questions won't be as difficult for some of the kindergartners per se. But so we'll get 4 students from each grade. And that will happen throughout the next couple weeks. And then we'll come back to you with all of the data and the answers at the next.
For informational items? Okay, wonderful. Then we will move down through our informational items. Audit. We do have a letter from our CPAs that just wanted to at least kind of inform us of where we're at, what they're doing. Throwing stuff at me now. I didn't think it was that bad of a meeting, but and then Julie sounds like she's already been in contact with them. We are well ahead of where we were last time, so seems like this was a better choice, and just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. Okay, any comments, questions on that? Be careful, Chris might throw something at you.
Got one more left.
Okay, if nothing, then moving through to graph the donor's choice books. Comments, questions? Nothing from the board? Public audience? All righty. Not seeing or anything, so moving down to D for the LMS Sora books. Comments, questions on that? Not seeing or hearing, so moving down to the HS Library book order for January 2025. Comments, questions? Comments, questions? Okay, not seeing or hearing any, so I'm just going to keep moving through. I do have one department report. It was, Charla was out last time, so she was unable to get her report, but she still wanted to make sure that she got it to us, so she provided it to us. Unfortunately, she is not here tonight as well. We definitely have her running, being busy. So, but she at least wanted to give us a heads up on her department report for curriculum. So,
It's
comments?
actually presenting at the principal's conference.
That's what it is. Yep. So, comments, questions? Not hearing or seeing any. And then the final item for the informational items is G for the mid-year financial report.
I would just say thank you to Julie for putting that together. It's very nice and succinct and easy to follow. Looking through it.
A little fun. There's a little fun there. Yeah. I know, I just, yeah. A little fun to it, so we do appreciate that. Any comments or questions on that? Okay.
One thing, Brittany, I would say, it looks like the budget's holding along fairly well this year, surprisingly well. So far. So far, it seems surprisingly well. So that was great to see.
Yes, it's a lot better than it was last year at this time. If you look back, and that's why I had the comparisons. And yeah, so we just hope maintains that same thing.
Superintendent's report. Sorry, I thought I had my closed session information up. I don't have it, so I'm gonna have to go off of. Okay, so I'm sorry, we have discussion. Oh, I know. Hey, Renee, where were you on that one? I apologize. Told you, I've been out of practice for a while. Good gracious. Okay, sorry. Discussion items. Discussion items. Yes, thank you. I have it. I usually have it saved on my computer and I couldn't get it. Discussion items. Mo Cones lease update. Matt. Yeah. There was a small update and change to it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So we currently already have a lease in place with Mo Cones that's sitting in that kind of that vacant area on the west side, north side of the parking lot at the high school. Dell Henneman came back to Matt and asked, is there any way that we could extend that lease? He finds that the community loves it. He finds that the area that he put time and effort has served his business better as well. I find that, I mean, it's a great location. I think that piece of ground that we had for years wasn't being utilized anyways. I know it has a future item for another exit on the west side of the parking lot. But so with that, there was an update to the lease agreement, and the only thing that I had requested is that at any time, either party could notice the other party and release their obligation of the lease with some notice. That's number 9, just so that, you know, if something happened to him and he needed to release himself out of the lease, he could, or if the school's future decision on that area needed to, you know, gain it back, then we could as
And I
well.
talked to Mo, and he said that he totally understands if we ever go to use that. He says, just let him know, and he'll work to get off the property. We would know well ahead of time. It's not something we would just decide to do in June on a whim. I mean, it's a fairly expensive 6-digit project, so we would know well ahead of time, and he would be aware of that and move his stuff off, and he'd be fine. He put some gravel in there, a few yards of gravel, didn't he, Wayne? And so I mean, it looks nice. He keeps it nice. We don't pay a dime for any of the electricity. He pays for all that. He pays for his own water. So it costs us nothing, and it's just a gesture, I think, to have him there. And when you go by there some nights, there'd be 40 people standing in that lot. If there was a baseball game or something going on, it's crazy. Yeah. Listen, he asked if he could stay there another year. He said just year to year. When we boot him, he's fine with it. But all this stuff, I just won't leave it, and I talked to you guys.
The reason why we're doing it so early is so that in the event the board chose to not do that, that he would have time to start moving his equipment and his stuff. How do we feel about that? Yes, sir?
I just wanted to add, like, I worked there last summer. I know I served a couple of you multiple times.
Why are you tattling on us?
Both was a little crazy.
It was cheat
We
day.
were friends. I
Uh,
thought we were friends here.
but that spot is a lot nicer than the parking lot of the gas station. So it's very useful as long as the school's not using it. Why not?
Got shade there. There's lots of, he put a bunch of tables in there.
Yep, and it's a lot cooler because we're not on the hot
Yeah, you
concrete.
can park off the street and go into the parking lot. I think it's great having something.
And I think Renee's even said it over a couple of times that, you know, during the summer, it is nice to have the community coming in through the parking lot. I mean, not only just for another set of eyes, but, you know, that they're feeling that their use of their city tax dollars.
Well, and I know it brought even attention to our school. I noticed a lot of people would go get ice cream and then they'd go look at the new painted parking spots because the seniors do that at the end of the year. A couple people like looked at the school. They kind of saw where we go every day, and so it kind of brought some of that to attention as well. So
Very nice. Okay. So do we feel that we could bring this as an action item and?
No, it's an action.
How do we feel out there, ice cream on campus? I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. Can be open during the winter.
Doesn't affect school. He doesn't open until school's out. He opens full-time during the day. Just opens after school until school's out. That's what he's been doing.
Alrighty, and we'll bring that to the next meeting. Next item for the discussion item is the baseball sublease. Currently, we don't have anything to present to you. We're still waiting for the attorneys to,
Hands of Felt Martin, and they said they'd get it back to me this week, so.
out. This is kind of time is of the essence, so we get it, if it's butting up to some things, you might be requesting a special meeting just so we can get it going, but just give you guys a heads up on that. Okay? Comments, questions? Alrighty. Item C, the update on the charter school application. I'm going to turn this one over to Matt.
Yeah, they only approved 5 charter schools this year. Last year was 19. So our charter school did fail. We did get some feedback. Melissa and Charlotte and I were all on the Zoom call. We all were able to speak for our application. They already had their minds made up before that public hearing part, which that's fine. So we took good notes as to, I took some from others that they criticized. I took obviously notes from ours. And the email that I forwarded to the board from them didn't give us very much information there. So their talk was a little bit more complete somewhat, but it is what it is. I would still like to move forward and let the board know that I'm working on moving forward with some of the components of the charter school concept, even if we're not an official charter school. We would like to still bring some of those components forward that we were planning on implementing through the charter school. So I've talked to John and Melissa, and we're all definitely in favor if we can make it happen. Maybe it's going to be on a smaller scale, but looking at options so kids can, if they are home, they have a more interactive experience. It's not just here's your class, work at your own pace, figure it out. That isn't good when you have a kid who's trying to get a diploma, trying to go to high set, whatever it is. They need some help. They need a teacher on the other end of that line. They need tutoring help whenever it's available for them. And some of the programs we're looking at, Edgenuity and Edmentum, both have those components to them. They have tutoring. You get onto the live tutor, ask questions from 7 in the morning to like 10 at night. So these would be some of the things that we're looking at. I just met with Edmentum today and asked them a few more questions. They've sent me some price quotes, and I have another one scheduled with Edgenuity here in a week or so, and they'll give me some more. I just need some follow-up questions as I thought of more questions. And now that we're implementing this without the charter school funds, that I really need to have it hammered down exactly what we can do and what we can't do. So we would still like to implement some of those things.
So the letter that we were forwarded, basically the only thing that really mentioned was evidence of community need. Did we need more people on the first call giving personal statements? Did we need more letters of support?
I think
How did
that-
they want that or demonstrated?
That's a good question. So one of the things they said, and they didn't interact with us, we were just more or less listening at that point. We had a hearing of the public sector, and then they just discussed it, so we listened. So what I wrote down on that was really a focus on some pre-recruiting, knowing what our community need was going to be. And we really didn't want to recruit until after we knew if we'd even get one, but really to try to pre-recruit and have more solid numbers going in to show the need is one of the things that I got out of that. Another thing is maybe it would have benefited us to have a few community meetings and invite people in and have a conversation and see if there's community, not just in this meeting, but to invite people in, try to do our best to see if anyone is interested, come in and talk about it. Getting information out, just not through social media, but the paper and everything else we can get to try to get anyone in. So I think that's what I got. The ones that were more successful, they seem to have more pre-community stuff, and where we felt like we didn't want to promise something that we weren't going to get, so we were pretty careful about what we told everybody. But maybe it's the opposite. There's a few other things in there. They were worried about our staffing. They didn't feel like that we were staffed appropriately. I feel like for what we were going to do and what we were going to pay for, I thought we were staffed fine. But maybe we need to expand on that a little bit, more explanation on the staffing, why we're staffing it the way we planned on staffing. A few other little things that they talked about. Again, I took notes on it. So it was a little oversimplification when they said
So if we were to, is it an annual, so it would be next year we would reapply?
They encouraged us to do a rewrite. They liked our idea. Other schools are doing stuff similar, so it wasn't the concept that was the problem. They encouraged us to do a rewrite, we'll try to get some more feedback from them. I know a few people on the BPA board, so I'll call them and just talk to them individually and say, hey, what can we do to make this better?
Maybe give us a year to put it all together, implement it, show that, you know, there is a need, because we know there's a need. Trust us, we know there's a need. So, Chris?
I just had two things. One, I liked that, at least, like a silver lining to that letter was there were some much harsher sort of denial reasons among some of the other schools.
Oh, sure.
Like that they were like, we have no confidence in your ability to execute any program. So it was nice to see that ours was mostly related to support and maybe like, hey, maybe you need to tweak your staffing a little better. That's the silver lining, I think, to it, is that I think we were like, it feels like we were like 90% there almost. The other thing that I'm glad to hear is that you're talking about implementing as much to the extent that we can within our budgetary constraints, because I think that's going to go a long way to demonstrating public need and some public support stuff. So it's nice because those things tie together to the what I think is that extra 10% we needed probably to get this done. So if we could work on that throughout this year and implement it in the fall, and then we have a much better case to make, then I think that's awesome. So, yeah.
On that? And I mean, just an idea, and I know that, you know, you can't spend money that you don't have already, so the idea is really just wishful thinking, but we are under contract on this building and we potentially might have funds, and I know some of the funds might be earmarked for the future of our students, curriculum, you know, another program. We might need to consider some of that proceeds when we can get to that finish line. Maybe we need to put it to that idea. So just a throwing out of that. Any promises, of course, we don't know what that looks like, but I mean, with budget, maybe that's something that we can look
Not a
at.
long-term funding solution,
No,
but
it's not.
it may get us kick-started. And again, if it's about helping kids, that's really why we get up in the morning. So see if we can help families in the community that may be trying to go it alone and maybe struggling. This might give them another option. It's the burden on us to help them.
Moving on, discussion items for the CPR first aid certification for the SPED aids. So I'm looking at you. So again, you just the board approved some updated job descriptions, and one underneath the SPED aid job descriptions is that we kind of put in that, you know, we're highly recommending that they do that, but it's not required. So I know that there was some discussion, so.
Yeah, we just talked about like what it would look like cost wise. I think Sadie usually does those trainings for us. She said it was fairly cheap. I think it was around $7.
For one, I think the whole package is like 15.
15, yeah. The only problem we thought about was we could find time to get people in, but then we're looking at budget to pay the extra sped aides to come in and actually do the training. But not all of our SNAs are always at some of these places when we need something. So we thought if our sped aides, because I know it's encouraged, but if our sped aides could be trained, it would also help us.
That's something we might be able to talk about, like the PIR days where we bring them in on, you know, Wednesday and Thursday. Well, maybe we have to bring them in Tuesday, and that's just what they're doing is so we'll look at that.
Well, and that's what we kind of talked about was, yeah, if we are going to have them come at the beginning of the year, then maybe this is a session, a blocked off session that they do for Zeta, since we're paying them to come.
Right.
And pay the $7 it is for like each person, or what, if we decide to do the full.
I think that'd probably be the most cost-effective way, and that would just be taking something they're already here for anyway, and let's make sure that they get that.
It does come down to budget. and
Yeah.
Sure,
that,
sure.
so, taking the course, I don't think is the huge budget. It's the paying of, you know, the employee to ensure that, you know,
6 hours of salary to do that.
how many sped aids again? Just sped aids.
41. Yes, yes.
And Zeta does CPR and first aid, and then she does the AD.
She does all of it,
and then
yeah.
She does one more, I can't
The
remember.
BP,
And that's
it's like the
the
full,
full packet.
yes.
Yeah. We haven't thought about that. That's a great idea.
That is a great idea, yeah.
Well, like you said, though, if you utilize a day at the beginning of the year that they're already here without students, that's another good time to do that. It says 246 hours for all of them right now, right? So that'd be expensive.
Rotation, I mean, maybe this is where we start trying to implement. So I guess we need to look at.
Which some of the buildings have more SNAs than others because it's wherever the need is at. But so, I mean, we could look at if there's only one SNA in a building, then maybe one of their sped aids is another person is trained and not just the one. We could also look at that too.
I think all the above. Let's look into it. If Julie could do a breakdown of the cost, $7 or $15, that's not very much when you consider what it would be to cost to go out. So also the hours and the labor time is expensive, but with Zeta, that is so helpful having her do that. So, and if we can do like a rotation, that'd be just look into it. I think. Yeah. Exactly.
That's a day we're already paying for.
Yeah.
That's not extra then.
Alrighty. There is no other items on for discussion. Future discussion items. Does anybody have anything? Have I missed anything? Anything new pop up? Chase, this would be your time. What do you need this weekend? What do you need this weekend?
We're still many judges short. Anybody have any free time this weekend? But like decided to judge, we shall debate. It is our state competition. So
Friday and Saturday.
Friday, Saturday.
You don't have to do both days, but if you could do even one of the days.
Do either one, do both. As many judges as we can get up. Anybody's available. There's probably a link in your email.
I will be there both days all day, so.
See, I mean, okay.
It's actually, honestly, it's a lot of fun. You get to not only meet kids from all over the state, but some of them are just incredibly talented individuals, and it's a really entertaining to listen to them, and there's nothing else I like better than judging teenagers. So I enjoy that.
There's nothing more I like than taco soup.
Oh, good
So-
taco soup, yeah.
I'm hoping that will be on the menu both days.
Another thing is, you guys judge.
Like it.
Exciting and a lot of fun.
Okay.
Now you have to be objective. You can't just go Laurel, just give them first and everything.
I mean,
I thought that was the
That-
point of
the
hosting.
kids in debate right there.
Having a sweeper this year.
Okay. Before I lose track of time, did you have something, Jenny?
Yeah, so I think it was one of you two, I can't remember who actually initially brought it up, but Matt has made some posters for the levy, and he was out at the game, but I thought last time when we went for Bond, you made some videos, you know?
I made some
As
short
we-
videos.
You know, as much as I love watching you, I thought maybe the students could walk through the high school, or a student group or organization could put together some some videos highlighting what you have on the posters potentially.
Talk about the things we need to repair, some things that are going wrong. That'd be
Or
a great
things
idea.
that you use, like the auditorium sound equipment, or that kind of stuff. And maybe it could be an opportunity for you guys to do some social media blitzing, and for us to get some advertising time, for our levy.
Good idea.
Julie will just talk. You just have to lip. Fine.
That would be catchy.
Perfect. Okay. Too much fun. Okay, before y'all race out the door and not sign up, let me get through this, and then you'd be happy to come back if you'd like. So under Montana Code Antiquated of 2-3-203, it has been determined that the next matter to come before the board is a personal matter, and it has been determined as follows: that the matter of the individual's privacy is involved, and that such privacy demands protection of the individual for sake of reputation and otherwise, if there any, can be gained publicly disclosing the information to be discussed. Therefore, I call the executive session for the purpose of the superintendent's evaluation. Let's take 5 minutes, board, before I close the doors, and the rest of everybody, you're more than welcome to hang out in the hallway if you'd like when we reopen. If not, have a good night. So